Always on your side. This is First Coast News at 5.
And first at 5, the state attorney's office has released now hundreds of documents to First Coast News in the case against Ronnie Hyde. Hyde was a Jacksonville Beach youth pastor arrested last year on accusations he killed and dismembered a teenager in 1994 and dumped off the child's remains at a gas station in Lake City. Our investigative team is going through never-before-seen photos from the crime scene and going over documents that go into great detail about the lengths investigators went through to solve this case. We'll have a report on what we have discovered tonight at 6 o'clock.
Well, tonight we are remembering two Florida deputies ambushed and killed in the line of duty. The two fallen officers, Sergeant Noel Ramirez and Deputy Taylor Lindsay, are being remembered for their integrity and their loyalty. The
small town of Trenton in mourning today. Officials have identified the shooter as 59-year-old John Hubert Hinote. At a press conference earlier this morning, they say he shot both deputies with no warning. And after he entered the Chinese restaurant where those officers were, that's when it happened. He then turned the gun on himself. We know that the suspect lived about 12 miles away in the tiny town of Bell, Florida. And tonight we are showing our support for the officers, Ramirez and Lindsay, by lighting our studio in blue in their honor.
It's a somber mood in that small town of Trenton tonight. They are really hurting over the loss of two of their own. Our Eric Alvarez is live just a few blocks away to show how the people of Main Street are coming together.
Here in Trenton, families are wearing blue shirts. They're hanging blue ribbons outside of their businesses. They're even feeding sheriff's deputies free of charge. They say it's all part of being Gilchrist strong in a town where from the darkness, a single color shines. In Trenton, Florida, the sky is gray and the town is numb, following the loss of two protectors, two neighbors, two friends. But out of the gray, something stands out. Blue. Lots and lots of blue. From the flowers that line the streets to the flags Jeff Cherry hung in front of his restaurant, Cherry's Seafood and Steaks.
I think you're going to see a small community that is broken right now, but is going to have a certain measure of resilience, and we're going to come back stronger than ever.
Blue ribbons line the walk down to the burger spot, where Gloria Seligman is showing the town's true colors.
We're going to rise above this. We're going to unite.
All of the customers that came in on Friday wore blue. All of the employees are wearing it too. And every sheriff's deputy that stopped by ate for free.
I just feel that if you can connect, any way to connect to make somebody's grieving period better, then of course everybody pull together and do it.
Here in Trenton, there's blue just about everywhere.
It's amazing. It's overwhelming, the amount of support.
It's fitting, because what else is color than the reflection of light in the darkness?
As tragic as this is, it feels great to be a part of a community as good as this one.
Now, Cherry hung the flags over his restaurant today, but the one in front of the water tower has actually been up for months. He tells me at one point he even received a note from Noel Ramirez thanking him for his support. Now, it flies in his memory and in the memory of Taylor Lindsay. Eric Alvarez, First Coast News, on your side.
What a beautiful, big show of support. Now, yesterday's victims, the deputies, were the second and third law enforcement officers to die in the line of duty in Florida this year.
And that's according to data from the National Law Enforcement Officers Fund. One officer was killed in Georgia in 2018. Nationwide, they reported 128 officers gunned down in 2017. That's down from 2016. Social media right now is flooded with people offering their prayers for the deputies' families, many calling them heroes while calling the shooter a coward.
President Trump offered his, quote, thoughts and prayers and condolences with the families and friends of the two deputies, heroes who lost their lives in the line of duty. And Governor Rick Scott said he was, quote, heartbroken by the news, calling it true evil for anyone to hurt a law enforcement officer. We've also learned that Officer Ramirez was a mentor for the Take Stock in Children organization. They are sharing their heartfelt condolences with the families and the victims tonight. Authorities say the man who allegedly shot the deputies, as we've been saying, is named John Hubert Hinote, lived in Bell, Florida. That is about 11 miles from the scene of the murders.
Our Juliet Dreyer joins us live from Bell right now. And Juliet, the looming question over this story is why, what was the motive? And I know you tried to learn more about Hinote.
Yeah, you know, I spoke with a lot of people in town today, and what I found is that Bell is a town where everyone seems to know one another, but no one seems to know anything about High Note. In fact, they don't even know what he looks like to try and figure out whether they've just seen him around town. Meanwhile, earlier today, law enforcement officers were parked outside of High Note's home. No one answered the door when I knocked on it after police left. We spoke with a woman who has lived nearby for 5 years. She didn't want to go on camera, but she tells me she actually actively tried to find out more about that man living across the street, but she says he always went straight from his truck into the carport and into the house, and she was never even able to catch a glimpse of him. Online records from Pinellas County show High Note was previously arrested for criminal mischief in 1994 and carrying a concealed firearm in 1978. Other than that, though, the man remains a mystery, even in this small, tight-knit town. While details are scarce about High Note, everyone remembers the 2 deputies who were gunned down yesterday. One woman tells me she once had an issue with her grandson and called the sheriff's office, and Sergeant Ramirez was the one who responded, and he spent 2 hours with the woman's grandson.
But he was just a gentle, caring soul. He genuinely cared for the people I believe that he protected. He felt like it was God had sent him to my house instead of someone else, and I felt that way too, because I think it would have been a different outcome had someone else had come.
And we will, of course, continue to dig into High Note's past and bring you any developments both on air and online. Reporting live in Bell, Juliet Dreyer, First Coast News on your side.
Juliet, thank you, and be sure to stay with First Coast News for the latest information. We will have much more on First Coast News at 5:30 and online at firstcoastnews.com.
Tonight, we had the personnel file of the City of Jacksonville employee at the center of that military flag controversy. The file from Melinda Power, who is listed as a code compliance officer, shows an exemplary performance. Her performance from last year rated her at 100%, with good customer service skills and an eagerness to help. Power issued a citation to Jaguars Power Sports in Jacksonville concerning their military flags earlier this week, and the controversy went viral across the country. The manager for the business claims Power was also rude to one of their employees, or rather their customers, a veteran, telling him, quote, "You did nothing for our country." Power and her manager are currently suspended while an investigation is being conducted.
New tonight, a student shot and injured at a high school today in Ocala. Officials say the Forest High School student was shot in the ankle and taken to a local hospital. The Marion County Sheriff's Office says the suspected shooter was another student and is in custody. It's still unclear tonight if that shooting was intentional. And today marks 19 years since that tragic school shooting at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. On that day, 2 students walked into the high school and killed 13 people. All these years and so many tragedies later, First Coast News anchor Jeff Vallon speaks with a retired Green Beret and a March for Our Lives organizer to talk about placing armed guards in schools.
If they know someone's there is going to stop them, you know, a guy like myself, I'm not going to run.
Chris Novello was a Green Beret for 15 years, serving in the Middle East, Central and South America, and the Far East.
And we're not gunslingers, you know, by far, we're not.
But he says placing armed guards in public schools has become a necessity.
If they know someone's there that's going to take them out or protect those children, our children, you know, the Israelis do it.
He believes America can do it too, inexpensively.
There would be a lot of good qualified volunteers.
Retired military, he says, and even then, not just anyone.
A Green Beret, you know, highly trained, which we are, Navy SEAL, Marine Force Recon.
You might think Atlantic Coast High School senior Adrena Forrest, a local March for Our Lives leader, would disagree. You might.
I'm actually all for armed guards at schools.
The National Association of School Resource Officers estimates that about 20% of U.S. schools K through 12 have armed guards.
I'd feel a lot safer. We do have one at my school, however, it is shared with another local school, so they're not there all the time, and they do have a schedule where they're gone for a certain period of time every day.
Novello is also in favor of arming teachers who want to be trained. Forrest says teachers should stick to teaching. But they agree that properly trained guards would have mitigated, if not prevented, so many tragedies in the 19 years since Columbine.
They would have been stopped dead in their tracks.
I definitely do think that the amount of casualties and the amount of violence would have been a lot lower.
An issue Forrest says will be in the crosshairs this November, and she plans to vote.
Arming resource officers at all schools, that is a really big thing for this upcoming election.
In Jacksonville, Jeff Vallon, First Coast News, on your side.
Thank you, Jeff. An update now on the student in Jacksonville who brought weapons into Sandalwood High School earlier this week. The Clay County Sheriff's Office confirms that the gun the student was carrying was stolen out of an unlocked car. Yeah, that beeping sound, you know what that is. That's the sound of a solution as well, and you can help. In the first 3.5 months of the year, at least 124 guns have already been stolen from unlocked cars in Jacksonville. JSO tweeted out that new statistic just last night. So here at First Coast News, we are on your side, and that's why we are teaming up with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, urging you to make that 9 p.m. routine a habit. Take the firearms out of your vehicle and lock your car as well, plus your home before you go to bed. It's part of our mission to help make the First Coast a better place to live.
Police say a repeat DUI offender hit and killed a young couple, and they say he was under the influence again.
Coming up after this break, the sister of one of the victims speaks out exclusively to First Coast News. Stay with us.